Hello, everybody. My guest today is Chris Hexton. He's the co-founder and CEO of Vero. They help companies collect and organize data so they can create better customer experiences and happy customers through email. They're 5 years old and help hundreds of customers send hundreds of millions of emails every single month. Chris, are you ready to take us to the top?
Absolutely.
All right, brother. You bet. Okay, walk me through the platform. You're not a typical email marketing platform. What do you do and how do you make money?
Yeah, absolutely. So we tend to, I'm probably the best way to explain this who we work with. So we tend to work with large consumer facing, so B2C companies who have hundreds of thousands up to tens of millions of their own customers. Those sorts of companies generally have either engineers on the marketing team or strongly technical marketing teams, and they're looking for tools that help them collect data, ideally collect that data in real time, give meaning to that data, so store it with some structure, and then like have a workflow tool to actually deploy both automated campaigns and ad hoc broadcast to their customers. So a lot of it's around the technical side of how that data is collected and stored that goes beyond your typical MailChimps or whatnot.
And is this more a marketing platform or a transactional email platform on the like of like SendGrid or Mandrill?
Yeah, definitely more on the marketing side of of those two descriptions. So we don't compete very heavily with SendGrid, etc. In fact, you can plug Vero into SendGrid and it sits on top and helps you do the data capture and automation layer.
Okay. And what's the business model? Is it a pure play SaaS company?
Yeah, exactly. We're a SaaS company and we charge based on volume. So how much data, how many customers you've got, data you store, and then how many emails you send per month.
And give me a general sense. I'm sure you have many cohorts you look at, but on average, what would you say a customer pays you per month?
It's shifted quite nicely over the last 2 years, I would say. And these days, 500 plus, really. So reasonably large customers. And but that depends. We've got outliers on both sides of that. And when we started, it was much smaller customers like us, and then the platform's gotten more sophisticated, more stable. So we attract larger customers, and it makes sense. I mean, if you've got a lot of your own customers and data, automation is a very powerful and useful tool. So it fits.
What year did you launch the company?
2012.
Okay, 2012. And up to today, have you been bootstrapped or did you raise?
So we bootstrapped up until last June, so June 2017. And yeah, I think we're really happy with that decision. And then we've taken on a bunch of VC money here in Australia mid last year.
How much total have you raised?
$4 million.
Chris, you went to the dark side, man.
I suppose so. I mean, it hasn't been too dark so far. I think, bootstrapping first it gave us a lot of confidence in what we've built, where we're going, the roadmap, sorts of customers we work with. Obviously, good unit economics to be able to bootstrap for so long. So raising money was a very considered decision, and we felt there were things we could do both on a product and growth axes that we couldn't do without some more money. And that's how we ended up on the dark side.
Name one of those things you feel like you couldn't do without additional capital.
I think, growing as a leader, every year, my co-founder and I, we would sit down and say, okay, what do we want to do next year? And coming into 2017, we felt that we had to build. You've always got to build things in your product to keep product market fit, to stay with the market, to stay with customers' expectations. And I think we've always been really good at doing that. We'd had a very, very word of mouth driven growth cycle or process, or even prior to today. And so we wanted to start. We knew we were going to a scale where we need to be adding on more than just relying on that. We want to have a more consistent approach to driving that word of mouth, I suppose. So we knew we needed to hire a bigger marketing team than we had, and we felt we couldn't do that without taking capital. And then we also have some ideas for how we might extend what Vero does. So going beyond just improving the features we've got, if you will. And we definitely felt we wouldn't be able to do that without building a larger engineering team over time. You're
talking about Fusion and some other kind of API related things.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a big deal for us has always been that angle of saying, like, we don't sell Vero to customers and say, hey, just throw this snippet on your site and magically your marketing team will be able to do everything. I personally think that's not reality. The truth is the best companies, marketing, engineering, product, everyone works together, and sending emails is an extension or just part of the customer experience, right? Like it's an extension of your product experience. And so we've always been big on saying we want to give I think engineering component of that has been overlooked often. We want to give these guys good tools to load data cleanly, and actually use what the customers have told them. So things like Fusion, we want to extend that product. Fusion allows customers to load data from an API just before the email is sent, and that's kind of flipping the traditional data load on its head. It means you don't push data to Vero. It means Vero pulls data from your APIs or data stores at send time, and that's been really, really popular. So absolutely, that's like a totally different angle or new tooling on top of what we've already got, and really plays nicely with that like holistic team view that we have.
And why is kind of your verticalized solution more powerful than someone just using Zapier or Segment to connect APIs with their plumbing?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to the sort of automation you can do, and at the moment, for example, like I assume you're saying, could you just use Zapier and connect it to Mailchimp or something like that? It's about having that
or Mixpanel and Mailchimp through Zapier.
Yeah, I think it's really got to do with we're built from the ground up to sit on top of that like raw, rich event stream that Segment sends. So you're not really, it's just less cobbled together. And if you're a serious mid-market plus company, you want robustness. You want to be able to send all the raw data somewhere. Vero can store all that raw data, capture it all in real time, attach it all to single user profiles, deduplicate those profiles, all that sort of stuff that I guess could seem sort of rudimentary, but if you don't want to screw things up, it's really critical to get right. And so I think if you're plugging those tools together, for a lot of our customers, that would be seen as a bit janky, maybe. Would be the word I'd use.
So at the most basic level, can I give an example? You basically use Vero and say someone, if this user ID hasn't logged on in this amount of time, send them an email to try and re-engage them, something like that.
Exactly, yeah. I think the big two buckets of emails, the automation side of things, the big two buckets would be activating customers. So someone's expressed interest in your product, signed up for a trial, done something, but then hasn't converted to actually buy. That's activation. The other big bucket's retention. So what you're sort of talking about, which is target people when they haven't returned, or if you're trying to drive them to use new features, or if you want to announce your specific new things you've built or new products you've got on offer or whatever. Personalizing all those sorts of emails as well.
Got it. Now, what have you scaled to today in terms of total customers using you?
We're probably around somewhere between 250 and 300 now. Okay. And it's growing nicely. I think this year will be, obviously having taken the VC money, this is going to be an interesting year. We've got to pedal to the metal, so I'm excited.
Yeah, fair to say 300 customers times a $500 ARPU, you're north of, or about 150 grand a month right now?
Yeah, and more than that, yeah.
Okay, significantly more?
Yeah. I wouldn't say significantly more, because then I'd be lying. Yeah. But, yeah.
Can we say south of 200 but north of 150? Is that fair?
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay, good. And what's growth rate look like year over year? What were we at 13 months ago?
We don't disclose our growth rate if that's cool with you, but we tended to our goal this year would be to do more than 100%. Basically, is probably the best way to answer that, and really try and do 150% plus.
Yep. And generally speaking, if you're raising capital at these numbers, you're not doing $1 million a month yet. You've more than doubled since your founding date up to this point, correct? Each year.
Yeah, to raise the money we raised, we've obviously got to be on a trajectory like that.
Yep. Fair to say. Good stuff. All right, let's jump into some economic stuff here. So this is obviously a very competitive space. We've alluded to some other people in this space. What does your guys' churn look like, and how are you mitigating that?
Yeah, I think I think the thing about this space that's interesting is for us anyway, we're working with companies where the setup is reasonably sophisticated. So there's a lot of competition around wiping Vero and then getting that set up. But the good side of that is people are quite sticky, and I think working with mid-market plus companies been a really good thing for us, because those people, they're really invested in this. They get set up. So the churn for us is not too far above the average in the cohorts we want to keep. The average SaaS churn, which I would say people are aiming for 2% a month. So
that's logo churn or revenue churn.
Revenue churn, yeah, that would be.
Do you have kind of a hyperbole there? In other words, do you have 10% of your customers that make up 50% of your revenue because they're extreme enterprise examples, or no?
No, definitely not. It's a pretty even spread, and we've tried to avoid that as much as possible. If we were skewing in that direction where 10 customers making up 50% of our revenue, that'd be really hard. I think it gives you. We're a very product focused company, and a big part of being able to maintain that is having no one customer that represents a huge portion of your revenue.
That's right.
So you can make sound product decisions. So that's really important to us, and we keep an eye on that for sure.
That's right. Yeah. Now, has any of your thinking around payback period changed since you've raised capital?
No. I think we've investors and having bootstrapped for like 4 years, we had a good idea of, it was clear we built the company to a certain point that I think was pretty impressive and was had good fundamentals, and they understood the way we built the company. And I think we've had a very content marketing driven approach. So our like LTV, our CAC's a bit nebulous, to be honest, in my opinion.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, we've never done any paid marketing. We don't have a sales team. So like the link between like, I guess you got to say that what's the total we spend on our marketing efforts and divide that by the sort of number of customers we acquire. But I always hear this number of LTV to CAC of 3 thrown around, and ours, would definitely be much higher than that historically, because we've focused on content. We haven't had a huge number of people focused on marketing.
How many people? What's your total team size, and how many are on content and marketing and sales?
We're 16, and then at the moment only 2 people. I mean, I guess that some of our support success team is a bit of an account management team as well. So you could maybe say 3.5 in total, and so that's what we're ramping up at the moment. But then historically, either one to 2 people over our lifetime at any given time would be focused on that element.
I imagine, Chris, though, when you raised, part of that deck when you were pitching investors, or maybe you had the leverage, they came to you, but regardless, they were asking the question, where are you going to spend this money? And sometimes I imagine you had to say, well, we think it's going to cost us this much in these 2 channels. That's what we're going to try. How do you back in to figuring out what your first experiments are going to be now that you've raised and you have some money to play with? Yeah,
I think we're definitely starting with the stuff we've already done well, and we want to do better or in a more measured fashion. And we did a lot of content marketing in the early days. And I think, when I say content marketing, like good content marketing for me is basically telling your current customers and future customers about, I guess the world they live in and how you see that world and why you've built the product you've built. Just so like, we see this as a problem that the customers face. We think this could be improved in this way, and we built product to help do that. And then hopefully, some people are interested in that and they sign up. They're cool thought leadership style customers, and you can then work with them to share their story and how they're using your tool as well. And so I think it's like a virtuous cycle of doing that. So definitely doubling down on that cycle, which is something we've always done. I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit for us as well. Perhaps some more technical SEO related stuff to this stuff, to the work we've done historically in content marketing. There's also some low hanging fruit on improving our own internal funnel once leads come on board. So those will be the areas we start, and I think there's a lot of growth we'll get out of that. And then beyond that, starting to experiment with other channels. But I don't know, I feel pretty good about where we've been historically with that.
Yep. So no paid spend currently though each month right now.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, good. So CAC is really negligible as long as you can just afford the 2 marketing people and let them keep cranking content out, and hopefully they bring in more customers over time.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good. Okay. Last question. Is most of the team based in Australia, or are you guys spread out?
No, we've got 6 here, and then the rest, other 10 are spread out.
Okay. And then I lied. That wasn't the last question, actually. With your churn of about, call it 2%, do you look at things like lifetime value yet as any kind of helpful indicators in the company, or no, not really? They're not guide points for you?
We look at it, but because obviously we've been around long enough now that you can start to draw some conclusions. I think one of the things we're very aware of in looking at it is that over the last, maximum 2 years, there's been a big shift in the sort of customers we work with. So we're really just starting
more
to see
enterprise.
More, I still call them mid-market. I think enterprises, enterprise conjures a certain image.
Yep.
And so I feel like we're only just starting to get reliable lifetime customer value data for those customers. So it's not really something that is a huge guiding light yet. That's for sure.
Yeah. Generally, if you just stuck these things in an Excel sheet, which probably is not valuable at 2% monthly logo churn, that's like a lifetime value of 50 months at the 500 puts you at like 25 grand. But that's a target that's obviously going to move and update with your gut as you talk to individual customers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Chris, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Actually, I read this book recently. I can't remember the title, which is not helpful. It's like 8 Unconventional CEOs and rah. It's got the longest title in the world. But it's about these 8 CEOs who were, really great capital investors and, smashed the S&P 500 over their lifetime.
Oh, it's a green and black title.
It's like Harvard Business Press or someone did it, or
it's like
really good.
Isn't it like break? Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about because I read that about a year ago. It's like breakthrough or 7 bench or 7 something. I know what you're talking about though. They list all the city, capital cities, all those guys.
Yeah. If people Google 8 unconventional CEOs, I think you'll find it.
Yeah. Okay, good. Number 2, it currently, is there a CEO in Australia you really respect or you like that you're following?
I mean, I think at the moment the team at Canva are an Australian company, and they're just smashing it. Wonderful company. They've built an amazing thing there, both in terms of the people and the culture and what they're doing. So Mel's the CEO there, and Cliff is a CEO, I think is his title, and I really like what they're doing.
You're actually your eyes are moving like they're in that office with you. Do you guys share a space?
No, but they're like down the road that way. So.
All right, number 3. Besides your own, what's your favorite online tool?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, Gmail. I don't know a fair answer to that. We've been using Asana for a while now, and I actually really like that. I mean, I think there's some nuances to get used to, but between that and Gmail, that'll be like 80% of my day. So I'm going to go with that.
All right, number 4. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I'm not too bad. I mean, minimum is 6.5, but typically 7.5.
All right, and what's your situation? Married, single? Do you have kids?
I got a girlfriend. But,
okay, girlfriend.
Not married.
Not married, and no kids that you know of, right?
Yeah. No, exactly.
All right, and how old are you?
I turned 30 next Thursday.
Oh, good. Congratulations. That's exciting. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
I mean, that is a genuinely hard question. I feel like I'm pretty happy with my 20s overall, and
it's not a regret, Chris. Just anything you wish you knew.
Yeah, I think I would relate it to that, though, is how I'd come to it. But probably, I think when I was really young, like I used to be an accountant. I worked at PwC, and I think the thing that breaking out of that and then starting my own company is a bit of a journey there. But like, I wish I'd known younger, like 18, 19, 20, that you can go and define your own stuff, right? Like you don't necessarily have to follow a certain path or have a traditional career per se. And that was just never thrown around when I was at school or with the exposure I had. So I probably would say I worked it out pretty quickly after 20, but an extra 2 or 3 years wouldn't have hurt.
There you guys have it from Chris, founder of Vero. He would have started his own thing earlier. It was just never something that came across his radar earlier on. But the company's doing well. Launched in 2012. He bootstrapped it and then recently raised $4 million. They're serving about 300 customers at a $500 ARPU, doing between 150 grand and 200 grand right now in terms of MRR, growing, call it between 100 and 200% year over year. Target this year's 150. We'll see if they can hit it. Healthy economics, less than 2% logo churn each month. Too early on CAC and LTV, just because they're just now getting into some of the paid spend with their team of 16 in Australia, making it easier for you guys to have your emails actually talk to your APIs and send relevant stuff at the right time. Chris, thank you for taking us to the top.
No worries. Thanks very much.